This is session goddamn dogs. Session 49 for balance, by the way. So next week's will be 50, and we really easily could, because we didn't skip stuff or anything like that, but could have done a lot more on certain things. So it could have been 100 plus sessions easily for balance. But we're coming up to the end here now. Okay. Okay, now I can't even hear that. That's too quiet. You guys can hear the music, I assume?
It's quiet, but we can
we can hear it.
Alright. I won't be able to tell, I guess, because I can't hear it at all. It's just too quiet, so because the audio volume level's too low, the balance still seems to be okay, but as long as you guys can hear it, it's alright. Alright. So let's get started here. So to keep up with this next part, you guys, of course, you already understand what's happening, but you need to essentially imagine that the end of the world is happening tomorrow, and that everybody you ever knew, every place you've ever been, every performer whose work meant something to you, all of it is just gone and disappearing, and that you survived. Just kind of imagine that feeling of loss, that the survivor's guilt, the pressure that it put on you. How would you change beneath that pressure? And then imagine that apocalypse is occurring annually. 100 times so far, or near that, anyways. So the point is what would you do to stop it? What would the people that are near you do to protect the ones that you loved, the ones that also have that pressure on them? And that is kind of the reality of what you and your crew are dealing with right now. Okay, so I can hear that now, but it's still super quiet. All right. So it is the 90-second cycle. So it's been 3 years since the last there. Your journey has not stopped being exhausting. In that 3 years since the static singing in the galley, Elsbeth has been furiously studying Cetus, trying to help your crew understand what exactly happened and how. Did you, during that time, would you have had any further parlays with Odim or no?
I don't know. I can't think of much else unless you guys thought of something you wanted me to say.
All of you, it's not your end, it's all mine. If there's any way you can be louder, it'll help me a little bit. Like I heard you say, I don't know, unless you guys had something or something like that, G, but that's, like, it was tough to make out what it was you said.
Yeah, that's what I said, is that I don't have much, but unless the other guys do, and then I can do it. So.
I'm good on my end.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Okay. So your escapes throughout this time there have been still performed with zero margin for error. The hunger is still accumulating power at a horrible rate. But in recent years, though, there are some glimmers of hope, and that Jack and your studies of apotheosis have proven fruitful. And in the last few years here, they've finally come to understand this kind of impermeable force. They don't have answers as to how you've escaped from the hunger, not yet, but there's a feeling that you're to permanently escape anyways. But there's a feeling, to quote Yorth, that you're really fucking close. And that's kind of the general sentiment as you guys enter this 90-second cycle. The world you descend into is populous and prosperous and vibrant. It is an ocean world. The entire surface is just ocean, and there are cities of gemstone and glass that are built on these massive floating land masses that hover above this uninterrupted ocean. The surface of this ocean is one constant traveling tidal wave that is just constantly surrounding, just circumventing or circumnavigating the globe. That's many hundreds of feet tall, and every time that it passes these islands, it kind of laps at the bottom of these floating gemstones. But apotheosis plummets down into these waters, and Ivar, you and Elsbeth lead a treacherous but ultimately successful undersea recovery, largely due to your ability to control the waters and manipulate the creatures that you find down there. You safely return apotheosis to the Alcubierre Drive, though, on the shoes, and then several weeks later, Yorth approaches the rest of you with a discovery. One of these floating gemstone islands is home to a massive facility where some immensely powerful magic items are being manufactured by artificers that are kind of working with methods that she's never even heard of before. This facility, they call it the Amethyst Arcanium, could potentially teach you what you need to know to truly harness the power of apotheosis to stop the hunger. And you're welcomed into the Arcanium by their chief artificer, an 8-foot-tall humanoid resembling a praying mantis named Chryst. There. And she hears your plight, and she's happy to instruct the 8 of you. but she explains that there's no special privileges that are going to be handed down. You'll have to train under the Arcanium's instructors, just like every other apprentice, and study and kind of master their artificing from the ground up. So during your tenure here, your studies are hard for most of you, but Peter and Elsbeth particularly excel. Eventually, all of you produce items that Chris deems to be suitable evidence of your skill with this craft. Actually, at this point, you guys will get to make some. So let me share this note to you. Give me 1 second here. You'll be taking these into the finale as well. So kind of you can use this to shore up any weak points that you might have in your setup. But I mean, you can just make stuff that's fun. Doesn't matter. Totally up to you. If I can find where I saved that note at. Alright, I'm going to drop it to each of you in Discord. Did you already note those, Sako?
My importance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm putting them in right now.
Okay. Alright, there you go. I have that page up. You each are given 3, so the asset count on the side, you have 3. So you can make, as many as you can make one item with 3 points on it, or you can make 3 different individual ones. Totally up to you. Doesn't matter. Did you put the 10 in there as well? It still shows an X on the skill, or it did anyways. I don't know if you've already updated it.
Yeah, it's updating now.
Okay. Now you can create these however you'd like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be anything in particular. But like I said, you can use them to shore up an existing weakness or just make something fun. But you can basically put any of the effects that are listed there on any items you choose. So you can make 3. You can make 2. With 2 on one and 1 on another. Doesn't matter.
Is there a way to expand that a bit? I can't even see that.
I mean, you can. Well, when you click it, click it and then open, and then there's a little link at the bottom that says Open Original, and then once you have there, you can zoom in.
Cool.
Becky and Soccer, you guys able to see it okay?
Yeah, just open it now.
Okay.
So I was doing my port during that time. I see everything that says asset 1, asset cost, so I can do something with 3
you have
total
3 total
asset number.
Yeah, exactly. You have 3 total assets. So it would have been a little bit variable, but you guys ended up about the same anyway, so I just set it to 3 for everybody. So you can make 3 items that use 1 point each, or you can make 1 item that has 3 points. It doesn't matter. Totally up to you. Just give me an idea of what it is and what it does, and I'll get them put on your sheet for you. This is just something that you're, creating while you're here.
Alright, I kind of see what I want to do here.
Okay, what's that?
So essentially we're making just an item or something that we will have with us that has a total of 3 asset points, correct?
Or 3 items with 1 asset each. And yeah, whatever makeup you want to do there. But yeah, you have 3 total asset points for whatever, individual items or item you choose to make.
All right, so I can make, let's say, a bracelet with 3 gems on it. Each gem has 1 asset point.
Yep, if that's what you want to do.
Okay, I'd like to do that then.
Okay, what are you putting on it?
Accessory effect will be Cat's Graces.
Okay.
An instrument effect of Mulligan's Blessing.
Okay.
And, if possible, a 1.4 Battle Lust.
All right. So those are extra attack with this weapon as a bonus action. That's supposed to be on a weapon. I would say you could still use it, but it is going to be melee, though. It's not casting an extra spell.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, then hold off on that Battle Lust. Let me take a quick look real fast.
And Cat's Grace is the one that's bonus to ability checks and saving throws. Yeah, okay.
All right. Instead of that lust, we'll go with Arcane Assurance.
That is advantage on a spell. Okay, cool. So that one, you would pretty much, if you just need to make sure that this one hits, then you would just spend double those spell slots, but it'll give you advantage, so it'll give you increased chance to hit. Cool. What is the bracer? Well, this narratively wouldn't land in there, of course, but Sako has a bracer on his left arm in the future. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. So this would need to be on his right arm, or at least something you could put on either. It doesn't exactly matter narratively, of course, just mechanically, or other way around rather. It doesn't matter mechanically, just narratively.
Kind of look like a monk's little, bracelet type of thing.
Okay. With 3 gems on it. All right. Ben, Becky.
So I'm gonna go with Mulligan's Blessing.
All right. What are you making?
I guess just a necklace or a pendant or something that I can carve out of wood and put little gems in.
Okay. Mulligan's Blessing. What else?
Mystical Knowledge.
What's that one do?
Once a day, the user may prepare 1 spell that they would normally not be able to learn on this item and can perform it.
Nice. Okay. Do you have an idea of what you're investing in that for now? What spell?
I have no idea.
Okay. Remember that you have that, and then, try to throw it in later on.
Okay.
Basically,
And
it would be, anything arcane-based that the druids don't normally have access to. And the last one?
Miraculous Health.
What's that one do?
When an enemy's attack roll is equal to the user's AC, the user takes no damage, but instead gains hit points equal to half, rounded down what the damage would have been.
That could be useful. Alright. And yours, G?
Alright, I'm gonna go with excuse me. Battle
real
Lust.
quick, what's that pendant look like? Is it just a necklace with the gems inset into a pendant on it, or what?
I'd probably make it like a tree, like shape it as a tree, and like put the 3 pendants as points for like leaves.
Okay. That's cool. Alright. How about yours, G?
Go with Battle Lust.
What are you making?
Does that? Oh, no, okay. Does it all go into items, or would that just go straight on my weapon?
I suppose for you, you could invest in something that's already there. Yeah, we could do that. You just putting them into your existing. We'll make that work. Sure. You're just putting it into your current sword.
Yeah, I'll just put a, get a gem in the hilt or somewhere on the rune. So.
All right.
And then armor
you said Battle
effects.
Lust?
Yeah, Battle Lust.
And what else?
And then, let's see. Go with Holy Protection.
All right. What's that one do?
Gives user and all friendlies within 10 feet of me advantage on saving throws against attack spells.
That's a little overpowered.
Yeah, you put it on there. So.
I didn't make this page. This was one that came from a artificing guide thing. So I just wanted to give you guys a chance to fill in any the low spots since we hadn't done much as far as magic items for a long time because you guys are already so overpowered. But we're coming into the end anyway, so it's time to be overpowered. All right, Battle Last Holy Protection. What was the last one?
Okay. And I don't know. That Mulligan's Blessing's pretty good. I'll have to go with that one too. But if you miss an attack spell, it doesn't lose a slot.
Oh shit, that would actually, because you don't have very many
Yeah,
spell slots.
Yeah.
Alright, and gems encrusted in the hilt. Alright, cool. I'll get those added to your sheet. For now, just remember that you have those effects, because I'll put them on there for you later, but for now, just remember that you have them, because you'll probably need to use them. Or could anyway. So you all spend the better part of your year here practicing these artificing talents, and these are not the first items that you make, of course, but they're the best ones that you manage during this cycle. So it takes you a while to produce these, but while you're in the thick of your learning, though, at the Arcanium, Nivara Yorith drops in on you. She says, hey, sis, can you give me a hand with something?
Sure.
I wanted to test something I made. Can you just come with me?
Okay. It's not going to be painful, is it?
She kind of grins. She says, I mean, maybe? So the two of you find a large clearing on this floating amethyst island, and she steps several paces away from you, and she's been carrying this tome that she always carries. She's got it with her, and it's the same one. It's the one that's bound in this kind of sweet-smelling fruit leather. She opens it up to this blank page, though. Stop it, Harold. And she sets this tome down at her feet, just right in front of her on the ground in front of her. And she says, "Okay, so I need you to summon some magical creatures, like an elemental or something. I don't really have access to that kind of stuff too much myself, and I kind of wanted your help with it anyways, just in case things go bad. So I think elementals will work fine, but if it doesn't work, I mean, we I might need your help to kind of send them back where they came from."
Okay.
She says, "Okay, well, I'm ready when you are."
Alright, so I guess we'll try a water elemental.
Okay. You have minor and regulars. Minor, I think, is 4, and a regular elemental is 5. What are you doing?
Let's start with a minor.
All right. Grab that for me. I think it's level, conjure. There it is, conjure minor on 4. That one. You summon elementals that appear in occupied spaces. I think I have the breakdowns for all of them. So you can go 1 that is a CR2, or you can go 2 that are a 1, or 4 that are half, or 8 that are a quarter. What are you doing?
We'll just start with 1.
1 out of a CR2? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me find that real quick. Go ahead and mark off a level 4 spell slot, assuming that's how you're casting it anyways. You said water?
Yeah.
Alright. Alright. Okay, so you... I didn't look at the mechanics of that. Hang on. Sorry. Why do I have that on your list twice? Let's fix that. There we go. Alright, so you focus on the kind of space in between you. She's about 15 feet away from you. On the space in between you, and reaching kind of down. At first you would normally just go into the ground and pull the water out of that or the air around you, but there just isn't enough there, so you end up kind of having to reach down quite a bit further, down to the 150, 200 feet below you, to the ocean, and kind of pull the water up from there, and it kind of sucks up through this amethyst that you're standing on top of until this formulation pops up in front of you, this kind of vaguely humanoid water that is just as if it's constant turmoil, as if it's in a storm almost, and it roils up in front of you, and it's standing there and just staring at you. Like, you can see these vaguely eye-shaped swirls. They're just swirls of water, but they're kind of, you can tell that it's focused intently on you, and it's just standing there. Nothing's happening. She looks at you. She says, "Well, I mean, it didn't work yet, but maybe it's because it's not, aggressive? Like, can we piss it off somehow? How does this work? I don't think I've ever seen you use this before.
Well, technically it says it's supposed to be friendly, so you can try to piss it off. See if it'll work.
I don't want to make the water gods mad or something. Like, I don't know how your shit works. Can you tell it to try to fight us? I don't know.
Yeah, I can issue commands.
Let's try it. Let's do that, because so far it's not working here, and she's kind of looking down at her book.
All right. So, if I'm the one issuing commands, you want to be the one to fight it?
I mean, I might need your help. How tough is this thing?
Shouldn't be too bad.
All right. Well, I mean, she kind of puts her fists up as if she's gonna box this thing, although she's clearly not very physically adept. But ignore that image. That's not her. That's just one of the random tokens that's on there. But she's prepared herself for it anyway. So go ahead and roll initiative. All right. You'll be going first then. So what are you doing? Are you just releasing control over it and then that, or are you telling it to try to fight back, or what?
Just tell it to defend itself, I guess.
Okay. All right. So then, you're going first. So you're telling it that, which I don't think takes an action or anything. Doesn't it just obey your commands as far as a free action?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. So what are you doing then?
Oh no, I can't do that because that's concentration.
Yeah, you'll have to keep concentration up to keep it in front of you.
No, I guess just hit it with my staff.
Okay. It's a swirling pool of water. You just go whack it with your staff. That's good. Go ahead and make your attack. And it hits. It looks like it didn't do very much damage, but it did hurt it, and it has reacted. It actually the swirling shapes of the eyes actually begin to stick out from it a little bit, almost like snails. The head of a snail with the eye stalks that come out towards you. It looks immediately very angry. It is Yora's turn. She kind of squeals gleefully almost, and you see her hold out this kind of glass one. And this is the first time you're kind of looking almost through the water to be able to see this. But she's holding a wand that looks very much the same as the one that you've seen Jack use over and over again. It's kind of just a glass rod basically, and she points it out at the elemental there, and you see her just blitz out this bolt that shocks through it and then just courses through it. She's kind of made sure that you've stepped back enough that you're no longer connected as far as your staff is concerned, but just shocks through this thing for a total of 27 damage. And the elemental flips around looking very angry. I'll have to skip by everybody else here. And is going to slam at your sister here. Bringing both kind of watery arms down just as a concussion of water over top of her head. Doing only 11. It's your turn again. What are you doing?
Oh.
She's immediately just drenched and is kind of grinning at you and giggling, and she seems like she's having a great time with this so far.
Well, a lot of my stuff is concentration, so let's see what do we have. We're just gonna do that. We're gonna hit it with Firestorm.
So as soon as you reach up and you start to kind of prepare this, she this is the first time you've heard her panic a little bit in this, but she's like, no, the book, and she kind of points down at the book.
Oh, shit. Alright, well, I guess we'll just hit it again with the staff.
She chuckles and she's like, that's more fun. Alright, and it hits. So when you've kind of cleaved through this thing, the one that you created was not a very strong one in the first place. That didn't do a whole lot. but you can see where it's already beginning to kind of weaken a little bit, and as it kind of wears down enough of this kind of the shape of this thing, the water just dissipating from it essentially, so it's almost just shrinking basically as it's getting hit. It's shrunk down into half of its original size, so most of it coming from the lightning bolt, but your couple of staff whacks did reduce its size a little bit as well. But there's kind of this bright flash, and you see this creature's form begin to spaghettify. So there's these long strings of water essentially that are being pulled down towards the ground at Yorth's feet, and into the blank page of that tome that she's been carrying since the start of your journey. And as the last of this creature's kind of strands are being sucked into this page, you see that this book, although it's soaked, is the depiction on this page begins to kind of form this drawing, this shape of this elemental that you had just summoned in front of them. You've lost concentration. The creature is gone, but it is embodied on this page here. And she shouts that, she says, "Fuck yes, it worked! It consumes the essence of these magical creatures. It's pretty badass, right?"
Yeah, that could be useful.
She's kind of grinning. She said, "This is what I've been working on this year. What did you make?"
This awesome necklace with some cool shit in it.
She looks at it, she's like, you were never very good with style, so I won't judge you too much on that. But she's like, picking up the book, and she's still like barely looking at you, just paying attention to this book. She says, "It seems like they gotta be worn down pretty weak like first, so I guess I got more work to do." She says, "Thanks, sis," and then she kind of bounds off and heads back to her studies. So anything else you guys are doing in particular for this cycle?
No, I don't think so. Just practicing my new abilities that we just got and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Guessing
How about
there's not much play around all the water.
Sure.
You mentioned that there's a lot of crystals and gemstone-like stuff around this ocean world. Is there any way I could kind of just research and look at these gems to see if they have any type of properties that
Sure.
may be beneficial to it?
Make an Arcana check. Make it with advantage as well. Nice. You had to roll a 3 and a natural 20. So in studying them individually and speaking with the inhabitants here, who are this kind of insectoid species, you have learned largely that these the world here, at one point these were all islands. They were all on the surface, or at least floating on the surface of the water. But the ocean itself has gotten what's the word I'm looking for? Too violent, I guess, for it to stay down there. But the gems themselves are a very potent focus for arcane energies, and that they can be stored very easily in these gems. So you can essentially put what would be mechanically similar to like concentration effects into these gems, and that they're able to store them for much longer, kind of like a battery. They do eventually discharge, and they have to be rebuilt essentially. But they've kind of used these to store long-term variants of spells like flight, for example, or levitation and that kind of stuff to keep these things floating up. But they also use it just for regular mundane activities because they have essentially an unlimited supply. And as one is discharged completely, they're able to kind of reinvest into it. So this is something they can do perpetually. But they've kind of built their whole society around the ability to do this because of these gemstones that are here. So anyways, as far as what you've learned from them, they're extremely valuable and useful and wildly abundant. They're everywhere. So they're valuable in the sense that they need them to survive, of course, but because they're so abundant, they're not something they're traded as currency or anything like that. They're pretty much just, you can pick one up off the street and do anything you want to it, as long as you have the arcane proficiency to be able to put into it in the first place.
Are we able to utilize this ourselves, or is this beyond our capability right now?
No, that's what you've been doing. You were essentially investing into these stones and then putting it into, whatever other items that you choose, like your bracer and so on. But no, you can absolutely you can take some of it with you. Like they're of no, they don't know what's coming unless you've told them. So, but basically, as far as it is, they're not concerned with your guys' presence. You're not the first visitors from elsewhere that have come to this place.
Ah, all right. Yeah, if possible, I'd just like to kind of take a few of these crystals with me.
You can take a bucket load. They're not concerned with the like I said, they're abundant enough, and even if you filled your ship, it wouldn't be enough to ruin this world at all. So I mean, you can take as much as you'd like, for use later. I meant to actually use this as a primer as well. Ben and Becky saw this already because we went over this for the Embers campaign. I've added a skill to the sheets. So go to your skill tab. And on that tab, you'll see a new skill labeled as memory. Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and make a memory check for me. Make it with it. Go ahead and roll it again. I was going to say make it with advantage. So. Well, that's 3 rolls now, but it was a 2 and a 15. We'll count it as a 15 is fine. Especially because it's something you're moving close by. You recognize the not chemical structure. It wouldn't be molecular either. We'll call it molecular for lack of a better term, because I'm not familiar enough with geology to give you a more scientific analysis of this. But the gemstones here very closely resemble the gemstone, the big chunk of crystal that you took from the Tatusian's planet, the one that's still on the ship that contains those souls. It has very similar properties. It looks similar. That one was blue, and most of the ones that are on this particular island are amethyst, but there's other islands of other stones. So I mean, and what you're able to see though, it appears to be very similar in structure and capability to the crystal that you took from the Tatusians.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so you grab a bunch of that. I would say that it's a near unlimited supply, depending on how much power you needed to contain within these. But you do gather quite a bit, enough that you could certainly use it as much as you need to for the time being. But you've kind of picked up a whole bunch of that, and spent a long time studying that, as well as kind of creating your own items and so on from it. In this time, you guys have spent a relatively easy year here. I mean, the very first part was a little bit treacherous, where all of you, basically all of you and Elsbeth, went down into the ocean to recover the apotheosis. But you've had it kind of easy this whole time. But it's now the last month of this cycle here. And the 8 of you have gathered together in the Galley of the Shoes for a strategy meeting. You guys have these nearly every year. It's an opportunity for you to talk about the big picture and kind of figure out what you've learned and where you need to go, what you need to try next to thwart the hunger once and for all, if you can. And this is the last of those meetings that you'll ever have. You're all seated around the dinner table. Jack speaks first, and he says, he takes his glass wand out, actually, begins to conjure up this scene at the dinner table. And the room kind of darkens as these projections take form in front of him above the table. You see a vaguely world-like globe floats above the center of the table. And it's the landmass, let's say, itself on the planet itself is pretty indistinct. It's kind of representation of every world that you guys have seen, basically. And above the center of the globe, you see these 11 discs appear around it that are floating in orbit. And Jack says, so this is the planar system. This is what it looks like each time we come into a new world. And Peter, I would say that you and Ivara both recognize, at least from an abstract sense, what the planar system is, but basically the kind of discs that are floating around it are where magic comes from, essentially. There's small rivers that travel between all of those discs, the representation of that, and those are called rills, and they kind of float down to the planet, basically. They're like blood vessels, almost. And different magics come from different of these discs. Each of them have different color and so on. But anyways, you guys have a vague recollection of that already. That you already have an idea that this is a like a child's drawing version of how it actually would look, because there is no way to really encapsulate that. But if you were to kind of make a simple drawing in a book, this is how you would draw what the planar system looks like. So you see this kind of representation that he puts above the table here, and then you see a small projection that looks like the shoes. It looks like your ship flying in from the edge of the table, and then it lands on that world, on that spinning globe in the middle. And Jack continues, and he says, so each cycle, Apotheosis breaks free of its containment. It shoots out from the shoes and lands on the planet somewhere, and then of course you see a small light fire off from the ship and lands on that central world. And he says, and then about 1 year later... hang on, I gotta adjust the size of this one. The screen size isn't quite right with these. The resolution's a little bit lower, but you see something like that. So you see the planet in the bottom right corner of that image. Let me know when you guys have the image.
Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
Right, so bottom right corner of that, you see what the planet that he's showing you. Essentially, it looks like that there. And you see this nebula-sized cloud of this kind of chaotic black, just roiling shape with all of these colors of reds and greens and blues and this kind of nebulas and stars and all these other lights showing off inside of it. That's many, many times larger than the planet. And it appears from below the table originally and kind of slides, comes up out of it and then consumes the scene, including the planet and all the discs around it. And he says, and that's when the hunger arrives, and rinse and repeat. And sure enough, the scene plays out over and over again. It just starts at the beginning, and you see this happen over and over again as he's speaking. He says, I've been trying to figure out why Apotheosis keeps drawing the hunger after it. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but what I do know, though, is how the hunger keeps finding it, and us. I've finally figured this much out, at least, and as the scene replays, you see Apotheosis shoot off from the shoes again, only this time there are waves. There are these kind of ripples of energy that are coming up off of Apotheosis as it's landing down towards the planet, and then even where it's on the planet. And these waves just reach out far beyond this projected scene. They kind of are bouncing all around this kitchen. And Jack says, this is that force. We've finally been able to find it, but it's that desire to be desired that Apotheosis gives off. It's a signal, it's like a beacon, and it reaches well beyond the edges of our reality, and the hunger is somehow attuned to it. He always finds it by this signal. And I don't think we'll ever be able to outrun him unless we interrupt it. And then suddenly the scene changes again, it restarts, and those ripples that are cascading off of Apotheosis, they grow weaker, and this time they're not bouncing around the kitchen anymore. They're just these kind of small little blips around it, and they just don't really seem to escape the planet anymore. They're just sort of kind of surrounding this local area here. And Jack says, if we can reduce the signal strength, according to my calculations, about 15% or so, it won't be able to escape the boundaries of our reality anymore. The hunger won't know where to find it, it won't know how to find us, and we can just hide and wait it out and starve it out. Yorith almost, she interrupts him really excitedly. She says, and we can do that with artificing. We can divide up Apotheosis into 7 parts, and then we can hide those parts inside of items, and those items, I mean, they'll be incredibly powerful, but the signal from each will be very, very weak. And Jack kind of interrupts her back, and he says, yeah, 14.28% each, actually, to be exact. And there's only one problem with this plan, though. That craveability, that desire to be desired, it needs to be fed, and if it doesn't, this division it won't take. They'll come back together again. And it means that once we've made these items, we can't just keep them for ourselves. We'll have to circulate them out into the world and let them be quested after and valued and pursued. And only then will this plan work. But it will work. And there's kind of a silent moment for a second there. You guys can, by the way, if your characters would interject or speak or something, by all means do it, because this will be somewhat narrative heavy otherwise. So feel free to speak up.
Well, I was going to say,
go ahead.
is it really? I know we might not have much of a choice, but where are these items going to go, and who's going to be in control of them? They have to be separated.
Jack says they'll definitely need to be separated. That's for sure. As for where they go, I mean, I don't know yet. We haven't gotten that far. I really just wanted to kind of present as much information as I have at this point, and then kind of let the team decide what we should do, and I guess go from there. But Yorith kind of interjects there too. She says, "There's one more complication too, Akitas, that it's too late for that plan here in this cycle, and in fact we're really only going to be able to execute this plan in a cycle where we can recover Apotheosis before the hunger picks up on those signals, meaning within the first day or two, and that's a really tight window." Jack says he kind of nods at her. She says, "So what do you all think?"
I don't know if we have much of a choice. It's dangerous, but what else isn't?
Yeah, but is it going to be, the pieces going to be dangerous to people that find them?
Jack says, he's kind of solemn, and he says, almost certainly. And Yorth kind of interrupts too. She says, yes, almost, they will for sure, sis, but at the same time, I mean, is it better to have one world where there's these dangers in it than having all worlds being consumed? Because if we don't stop him eventually, all life will be wiped out. And if we can keep him from coming, if he doesn't know where to go, then we might be able to just stop him altogether.
Okay.
Elsbeth, Jack actually looks over at Peter. He says, Peter, I mean, you know probably the most about this, apart from Yorth and myself, so what do you think?
Doesn't look like we have much of a choice. It's either ruin one planet or take them all out. It's a lesser of two evils.
Elsbeth, you guys look over. She hasn't said anything so far. She actually looks a little angry almost. She taps. She's still holding her staff. She taps it on the floor. She says, "We do have a choice." She says, "Look, I don't know that I want to be responsible for putting anything that dangerous out into the world." She says, "Jack, Yorth, I know that you know your stuff, but it's just Apotheosis is a sickeningly powerful energy source, and items powered by that energy are going to be devastating."
What if each one of us went and kept these items separate and guarded them?
Jack kind of nods. He says, that was my original plan too, was, that if we kind of each held on to one, I mean, one of us wouldn't have to. We only need 7, and I would say better to put 7 out there than 8, but, as it is, 7 of them gets the percentage down to 14.28%. So, was it 28 or? Yeah, 14.28%. So, going any further wouldn't be necessary, but the problem is Apotheosis doesn't seem to have the draw on us that it does to everyone else, and therefore I don't feel like it would be feeding the craveability of this thing. I don't think that the need to be desired would be fulfilled, and I think they'd end up rebuilding themselves. At least in my calculations, that's what it looks like. He says, listen, this part of the plan, once we put them out there, they're out there. We have to let them be craved, or else it's not going to work.
All right then. What other choice do we have?
Elsbeth kind of shakes her head. She says, "Look, I've come up with a plan also, and I didn't think it was ready yet, but I figure now is the time to talk about it because I don't want to go along with this." She says, I think I can channel Apotheosis into a spell, a warding spell to defend against the Hunger's advances." And she waves a glowing hand out at this projection. She's casting another minor illusion over top of it, and you see this light barrier surround this central plane. The planet actually, not any of the planes itself. So you still see all the 11 discs, but the planet, there's this kind of glowing blue circle that kind of surrounds it. And she says, I've been practicing this spell for decades now, and with some help from Peter, I've been able to master it. It's a final barrier. With the aid of Apotheosis and its light, I can weave it around an entire planet, and it will be strong enough to keep out everything, and that includes the Hunger. And Yorth kind of interrupts her. She says, Ellie, let me show you something. And this projection changes again, and you see thousands of these little threads of light, the rails that I was describing earlier. You see these thousands of little threads of light that are stretching between all of those discs and the planet. And with that projection, out of the projection, they reach out into all these other realities. And Yorth says, if that barrier cuts off everything from the outside, you risk severing the bonds between this world and all the rest of existence. All magical rills, all natural ones, any connection to the planes outside of the world that we perform this on. A world cut off like that, I'm sorry, Elsbeth, but it wouldn't survive. And she's clearly frustrated. Elsbeth is getting very frustrated with it. She says, you don't know that, and we don't know much about Apotheosis at all, let alone what it's capable of. And if that's true, then fine, this world has some lean years until we starve the Hunger out. But please, I'm begging you, just think about it. And I'd say that the 8 of you probably spend some time debating these two plans, and things get a little heated at times. And finally, Drew cuts off everything, and he says, "All right, now that's enough. All right, let's just put it to a vote. Jack and Yorth, I imagine you're supporting your plan. Elizabeth, for yours, of course. What do the rest of you think?"
Well, Even if we can't keep the 7 pieces, we can still keep an eye on them so things don't get out of control.
Yorith kind of nods and smiles at you. She says, "Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can try to mitigate any effects that these have."
And it's not that I doubt you, Elspeth, but I don't know if any spell in any world is strong enough to stop the hunger. Not for long, at least.
She's looking more and more despondent as the both of you have spoken up. Alice says, she says, "I don't know, Ellie. I can't imagine cutting off an entire world source of magic and wonderment like that." And then they all kind of turn towards Peter.
I'm thinking we
Elspeth
gotta
says,
think a little bit more.
Peter, won't you even consider it? I mean, you won't even consider my plan?
We do need to think of something long term, but right now this seems the only way. We're not going to live forever, so we can't keep an eye on these things forever. But maybe it'll at least buy us some time to solidify your plan and make sure that it absolutely works.
She kind of sets her jaw to the side a little bit, like she's thinking about it. She's still mad, but she's kind of, accepting this kind of pseudo-compromise almost, because it's still basically not going with her plan. It still means putting these things out there, which she's very much against. There's kind of this melancholic pause, though, and then after a good kind of solid 30 seconds, which sounds like an eternity when everybody's kind of sitting there angry, like they've been bickering. But Drew says, "Well, it sounds like we have a pretty big majority here." She says, "I'm sorry, Elspeth. I think Yorith and Jack's plan sounds more likely to succeed myself." And she looks angry. She's kind of tapped her staff on the ground again, and she's already pulling a book out and starting to kind of jot notes into her book, the kind of historian, keeping a record of this meeting that just happened. She looks very disappointed, kind of downtrodden. She's obviously been working on this plan for decades, and it kind of, just came to an end here. But Yorith sees that, and she says, "Elspeth, listen, I promise you, I swear on my life and my second life, this is going to work, okay? I mean, we're nearly done." And Elspeth just kind of nods, her mouth's kind of held tight. You guys have anything else to say or anything else to finish up in this cycle?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Nope, just
right.
keep looking at my gems.
All right. Yeah, so you grabbed plenty. I mean, you have, enough of a supply for this that you can kind of at each. There aren't many, but for a while, basically, you have time that you can spend researching these or doing anything else. Are you doing anything else in particular with them for this cycle?
I was trying to figure out whether or not I can imbue them with some type of a magical property, or just kind of pre-cast a charge spell into them or anything like that. Use them as a insta-cast type of thing.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how they have been, how you've seen them work so far. So I guess tell me specifically what it is you're trying to do.
In other words, see if I can just pre-cast spells within them and use them just as a charged battery. So during combat, in the heat of combat, I could just throw a gem out and it'll be a pre-casted level 7 or whatever it is.
So basically, the simple answer is that I would say that during your testing, you've been able to do that successfully. The more complicated the spell is, the more likely it is to fail, and they do fail pretty spectacularly. So if it goes bad, let's just say that you've gotten hit in the face with a little bit of shrapnel a time or two. Nothing that a little bit of healing didn't take care of, but it could potentially, and you weren't trying, at max level type things, but you have been able to invest even things that take longer cast times into these successfully. But it's one of those things that you may get, depending on how badly you fail, you may get some indication that it wouldn't work, and therefore maybe not trust this particular stone. But there's been twice already where you've put a fireball into one that you thought worked, and you threw it out and it just exploded, and you ended up getting hurt yourself rather than it going off like you expected it to.
Gotcha.
So if you want to make some of those types of things, let me know, and we'll make the associated rolls so that you have them.
Yeah, eventually I will, but not at this time.
Okay, you're holding off for now. Still just researching then for the rest of the cycle?
Yeah, just researching.
All right, so the end of the cycle comes. You guys have acquired Apotheosis, and you get the shoes. You GTFO. The hunger chases you, and you move on to the next cycle here. We're actually skipping up to just about the end, almost. It is cycle 99. You have continued to kind of try each time to enact the plan that Yorith and Jack have put forth, but each of the 7 years through this point, you had not been successful in acquiring Apotheosis fast enough. That the Hunger already had the signal, and therefore if you broke it up in this place, the Hunger would still already know where you were, and it would still be after you. It might prevent maybe further worlds, but the problem is that if those 7 items that you put out into the world, this is what Jack tells you, that if you guys break it into pieces and then put it out into the world, and then the Hunger absorbs the world, he'd still have all of it anyways, so it would be pointless, and he would just continue. Basically all of you would die, and the world would still be consumed, and presumably the Hunger would still continue absorbing other worlds. So you haven't been able to enact this plan just yet, but it is the 99th cycle, and you have continued obviously all the research of kind of looking into Cetus and how that works, and kind of all the other things. You just keep going year by year, just trudging along, and the stress of the situation has certainly gotten worse and worse over time, but the kind of anger and frustration that Elspeth was showing seems to have faded. It seems like she's kind of acquiesced to that this being the best possible plan, or at least as far as you guys can tell, what she's showing you. But here you are. You've arrived in the 99th cycle. Players, you guys are all strung back together in your kind of recorded states among the shoes, and this is immediately very strange. Usually when when the shoe stops, you are above a planet. You are basically looking down at the surface of a planet, and basically just in orbit of a planet. But this time the shoes snaps out of its traveling. You're all kind of rebuilt, and then you look out, and there's nothing there. It's just emptiness. There's no world below or above or any direction. All directions look the same, and all directions are this inky void of swirling gray clouds. Drew is very puzzled. I mean, you've done this 100 times now, and never seen anything like this, but you are basically floating in this kind of cloudy void. Drew looks very puzzled, and he's kind of very cautiously moving the ship ahead, because you can't really see far enough ahead to be able to, get an idea of what it is. Like you might crash into something or whatever, so he's being obviously very careful. But you're kind of moving slowly through this void. What are you guys doing?
I'm going to go around and make sure nothing's like any damage I can see or anything happening to the ship from the inside.
Make an investigation check. Sorry. You look around, everything appears to be fine. I would say that there's a very dull, almost filter over your vision, that everything, and this is true for all of you, maybe it's something that, Jack mentions, and then you all kind of concur that you're all similarly seeing this. So there's almost like if your eyes have just adjusted to being in the dark and then something bright shows up, it's like that, basically, before the brightness, when everything is just dull, and that there's like, you're kind of having to, your eyes are having to pick up minimal light sources, and your pupils have dilated for that reason. Being, medically minded, that's what Jack would have noticed. It's like this whole place just doesn't have a source of light. So your eyes are just adjusting to this kind of, the swirling gray clouds are a small light source in themselves, but it's pretty dim, kind of shaded there, and the only light you're getting is essentially the artificial light of the ship itself, but even that seems somehow dimmed.
Alright, is the Apotheosis still on board? Can we feel it?
Yeah, you head back to the chamber. It's still there. It hasn't shot off, which is strange in itself. Jack actually joins you there immediately too, and that kind of looks at you and looks back, and he says, "I mean, usually it'd be gone already by the time we get back here to look. It'd already be fired off. So, like, do you have any ideas where we might be?"
Not sure.
He kind of heads back to the ship or back up to the bridge to check on Drew, who is still kind of piloting it very carefully, very slowly through this gray mist. You can't see far enough to be able to tell, if there's anything there, and you do Nothing yet, actually. Yeah, I mean, this has only been, a matter of half an hour at this point that you guys have been on this, been here. Wherever here is. What are Peter and Navarre doing?
Am I able to cast some form of an illumination spell or a sunburst far enough out in front of the ship just to see if we can get a flash, a glimmer of something around it?
So you head out onto the deck, and you throw out a sunburst, which is, what, 6 or 7, something like that?
I think so, yeah. I'm having some problems scrolling through my my actions now. There's no more scroll bar on my thing.
Really? It's there.
Yeah.
For me.
Now I just have to use my scroll wheel, which takes forever. I'm still scrolling through
'cause you
level
have a
4
video.
right now.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's there. It's just that you're probably having trouble seeing it because of the theme that I put on there. If you scroll all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom, the bar is there. You just gotta find it. It's depending on what level you're on, it's just very dim. It's hard to see because the theme kind of covers it almost. Let me find a different one here. I'll just change it to one that'll be easier to see it on. There you go. Now you'll be able to see it.
Oh yeah, I got it back.
Yeah. It was almost the same color, that's why. Anyway. Alright, so you step out onto the deck, kind of holding your breath for a second to see if this is, air that you can breathe. And at first, it feels heavy when you kind of step out of the containment of the bridge. But you kind of, the air feels heavier than normal. It takes you a minute to get used to it, but you can breathe. It just, it's labored. Like, it takes you more effort to breathe than you would normally be used to. But you've, had plenty of, probably a third of the planet, maybe less, maybe 20% of the planets you guys have visited have had similar atmospheres. So, it's not enough to throw you off too much. But anyways, you step out onto the deck, and you throw out a sunburst in front of the ship, and it passes through this kind of glowing sun, this kind of small sun, basketball-sized orb that just glows and erupts in front of it. And at first, as soon as it passes in front of the ship, it looks like it's kind of burned away a little bit of the fog, but then you realize, no, it's just that the brightness is not something you're used to, and you kind of have to, cover your eyes a little bit and just peek through your fingers. But it passes ahead of the ship and out into the distance, but it doesn't appear to have had any impact. Like, it's for the briefest of moments, seems like you got a little bit better vision, but as soon as it doesn't stay. Basically, as soon as you're kind of adjusted to it, it immediately just still feels kind of heavy and dim.
Can I use control winds to try to move the clouds?
Sure. Go ahead and mark off those spell slots, by the way. So make sure you're counting those off if you're using those. Control winds. What level is that?
Level 5.
All right. 100-foot cube. You can get most of the ship inside of that. I guess, are you just trying to push the kind of fog, mist, cloudy stuff in front of the ship away, or are you trying to push the ship? What are you doing?
Just try to move the clouds away from the ship so we can see better.
Okay, so gusts then.
Yeah.
You in casting it, you kind of throw this wind out in front of your hands, and just kind of this big cone that pushes it all away, and it looks like it pushes the clouds away, but what it leaves behind is just emptiness. There's nothing there. Like, the clouds are now out of the way, but there's just nothing to see. And as soon as actually, you can hold it for an hour, so you've pushed it away, and again, there's just nothing in front of you. So it's just kind of empty, open, gray space. Like, you see the clouds behind it, so basically the clouds have just been pushed back, but there's just nothing to see.
We were inside of some type of a debugging environment. There's nothing.
It's the construct, I think it was called, whatever it was in the Matrix, where they it was just the empty white space and they just load in guns and shit.
Alright, just to double check, everybody's here on board, right?
Everybody's
Make
there.
sure.
Yeah, everybody is intact and normal. You do notice that Cetus seems to be sluggish. He's not as like he's usually pretty active and playful, and Alice is kind of trying to keep her mind occupied by hanging out with Cetus for the most part, and kind of keep Cetus calm as well. But he's grown quite large by now. He's basically, he can still barely fit in the most parts of the ship, where the height of the ship is about 8 feet. So the jelly cap will be almost touching the ceiling, and his tendrils will be almost touching the floor. But some parts of the ship that are a little bit shorter, he has to kind of wrap his tentacles up, so he kind of lifts them up above him. Kind of floats them with them bent in the middle and lifted up like a insect arm might be. But he appears to be pretty sluggish. Other than that, everything seems to be pretty normal. You do notice that the crystal of the Tatusians is also very dim. It usually has this kind of glowing light inside of it, and it's very dim right now. It's still there, and Ketis, you can still see the faces inside of it. No one else, of course, but Ketis can see the faces inside, and they're also kind of dim.
Okay.
Safe to say that since the apotheosis has not ejected itself, we haven't put out that ping yet, have we?
Jack kind of looks at you when you say that, and he kind of has a quizzical look and brings a finger up to his chin and kind of rubbing his chin a little bit. He says, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it sends off all the time. I've never had this time to really look at it. But that's a good idea. And he kind of, without even finishing his sentence, kind of turns and heads back to the Alcubierre drive chamber to go study it.
This might be the place to forge our new 7 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yorith kind of nods at you. She says, I mean, we'd need to find a place to land, and we'll need some tools. So if we had time, and maybe we could make the tools, but we'd really need to get on it fast before, if the signal hasn't been sent out. I mean, it's not, I don't know, at least at the Arcanium we had, all of the things necessary. We had the proper forge to be able to build something like that. I don't know. Maybe though. And she's still she hasn't even really, during that, she's barely even looked at you. She's still kind of just looking out through the clouds. What's Navarro doing? Just still pushing the clouds out?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say that hour ends, and you kind of drop the control winds, and the clouds just kind of fill right back in that empty space. Nothing appears to have changed. Drew is still very carefully, kind of piloting the ship along. You can't tell what's up and what's down, what's left and right. There's no... you're starting to... Well, okay, at this point, basically, you guys kind of are just very carefully meandering your way through this. There's enough, materials on board that you're not too concerned with that, but you don't know how to get out of here, meaning that you can't just, take the ship and leave. So if the hunger were to come, you might be screwed, because you don't know which direction to go. So everybody's very tense and a little nervous, but a week passes, and then 2, and still nothing has appeared in this empty void. You do occasionally see far in the distance through all these clouds, you see these just massive gargantuan shapes that easily dwarf the shoes. The shoes is about 150 feet long, and these things are just utterly gargantuan. And they appear to be kind of swimming through these swirling gray clouds. They're too far away, really, for you to be able to get a good glimpse of what they actually are. You basically see kind of a fin here and an arm there and that kind of stuff. You do see what looks to be kind of a humanoid head at one point that is, you'd estimate based on the size of the ship here, and maybe kind of guessing the distance, it's probably a good 300 or 400 feet tall, and it turns and looks at you. It's upside down, so the nose is above the eyes, for example, but it turns, as you guys are passing, kind of looks at you, and the eyes open, and you can just kind of vaguely make out this shape that is staring at you, and then the ship keeps moving on, and if you Drew doesn't pilot it in that direction in case it's potentially dangerous, but are slowly getting closer and closer, and it just kind of, its eyes follow you as you move along, and then as you guys, once you've gotten far enough away, the head turns away and moves off into the distance as if it's moving out through these clouds a different way. But you've passed through this kind of empty space. That's the only indicator of a potential up and down that you ever saw throughout all this. The rest of the things that you saw, you wouldn't necessarily be able to recognize if they're supposed to be an up and a down, basically. So at one point, after the next day after you see that humanoid shape, Drew kind of asks the crew, like, anybody mind if I like flip this thing upside down? Because, I mean, if that thing that we saw, if it was standing, and if this, you know, if there was some kind of gravity here, which there doesn't appear to be, but if it was standing, then it looks like it was upside down. So if we like flip it upside down, then maybe we'll be right side up, and like I might just feel a little bit better. Anybody mind if I do that?
That's fine.
So
Flip it.
he flips the 180. You guys don't feel a thing. There's no change, and if you weren't watching the clouds, you wouldn't have even noticed that it happened. But he kind of flips it around in case this is the right side up. But still no change. Time just keeps on passing, and you really have... time is getting very difficult to track at this point. There's no sunrise, no sunset. There's no external means of judging day versus night. Sleep is getting difficult. And eventually, Peter first, and then the rest of you over time realize that sleep isn't even really appearing to be necessary here. Because without any external means of judging this, you kind of go a long time without eventually realizing, oh shit, I haven't slept, and then you kind of look at the ship's clocks and you realize that it's been 2 days, and you don't feel tired, you don't feel like you've needed sleep or anything of that sort. But time just keeps kind of it has a certain intangibility here, something very strange and kind of wishy-washy about it. But sometime, and according to the ship's clocks here, sometime during the 3rd week, finally something changes. In the distance, as Drew has kind of slowed the ship a little bit, as you see this, a silhouette of what appears to be some kind of a creature appears in the fog straight ahead of the ship. It's still too far to be able to make out many details, just kind of the silhouette of this large round shell with tendrils swimming out of one side of it. It just kind of stops there, just staring at you. I'm going to show you guys an image. That's too big. Let me know when you have it.
Got it.
So,
Yeah.
very vaguely through the fog, you see that. It looks like a shell kind of a shape with an eye on one side, and then this kind of massive tendrils that are slowly swimming through these kinds of clouds, this kind of foggy clouds, potentially quite a ways outside of the ship, but very, very large, much larger than the shoes. Once you've kind of stopped though, and you guys are all seeing this, everybody's kind of, mouth agape staring at Alice, goes, what is that? She looks at you, Naivara. She's like, you know what things are. What is that?
I have no idea.
All I know is we're gonna need a lot more lemon butter.
Do you actually know what that is? I don't think they're edible. They might be. I imagine it'd taste really gross if they were. They're ancient though. They still exist, but they're one of the really, really old creatures that have not evolved any further for 60 million years, 65 million years. That's called the Nautilus. Drew, though, kind of holding the ship still, at least as best he can, without any visual means of knowing whether the ship is moving or not. He says, "Do you guys remember the very first world we visited? Let's see, I think it was Ketis and Jack and Naivara and Peter. You guys went down where those monkey things, the DCFs. Remember, you guys went down so you went down there and you told me about this. I never saw the guy myself, but you said that there was this tentacle-faced man that stole Apotheosis. You remember that?
Yeah.
He says, well, when he left, I stared after that ship as it flew away, and I mean, it was almost 100 years ago now, but that's pretty much what it looked like. Ben, Becky, Sako, you guys remember that? It was a long time ago, of course. You guys remember it, Sako? Right.
Yeah, vaguely.
So in that, the Illithid, that stole the Apotheosis, he teleported out of that chamber, and then as you guys left the cave, you saw him flying away in a ship that looked like that. In fact, I'd say Ketis, you'll make this with advantage, but Now, all three of you make a memory check. Roll advantage for Ketis. Ketis, specifically, I would say that because of the conversations that you had, it kind of stands out for you for a minute. When Drew mentions the tentacle-faced man, the creature that you saw, the lizard there, it sparked something in your memory that it had been a long time between these two things, so you hadn't really kind of put two and two together, especially because you've been to so many different worlds and seen so many different weird, alien-type species, that it didn't stand out for you at the time. But when Drew mentions this tentacle-faced guy, the way that he says that, it reminds you specifically of a conversation that you had with Odim in Parlay, and he mentioned to you a tentacle-faced priest of Neadramoth that had come to the world that Odim was from. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And that, between those two, that kind of sticks out as, oh shit, like that. Maybe that was the same kind of a creature potentially. You don't necessarily know that, but those two sounded very similar based on the descriptions that you had seen and heard. So what are you guys doing?
Yeah. Oh. I don't know. You guys want to go after it?
Did you want to parlay and talk to the nothing there to see if we can get some more information?
Yeah.
When you say that, Peter, when you suggest that, Elsbeth speaks up. She says, as much as that sounds like that could be very useful for us and we could get some information, I'm a little concerned because at least so far, most of the times when Ketis goes there, Odim kills him. And until we get the ship out of here, we don't know if we can get him reset back to his form or not. So out of narrative for a second. Every time Ketis does that, he's killed. He gets reformed as soon as you guys leave that cycle and you start the next cycle and the ship rebuilds you. That's what happens. That's how Ketis comes back to life each time. Because if you guys are dead at the end of a cycle, as long as the ship escapes, that as long as one of you basically gets out, like the year where Elsbeth got the ship out and all of you had been killed, been petrified. When she got the ship out, all of you were reconstituted. That's what's happening for Ketis every time he does the parlay. So if he's killed there and you don't know how to get the ship out of here, then Ketis would not be with you for the rest of the cycle. And potentially if he didn't get the ship out of here at all, he could, never make it back, potentially.
We could think about a boarding party, see if we can get some information.
It's a real shot.
Yeah. And also, if we parlayed, it might let the Hunger know where we were too. So I don't know.
Elsbeth kind of nods. She says, "Yeah, that might be true too. I guess we never really, found out if he can find us through that, anyways. At this point, it's been 25 years since you did the last parlay. Somewhere about there. I'm just estimating. It's probably around 20 to 25 years."
Yep. Go after the ship.
Drew kind of nods. He says, "I mean, it's really, any other direction seems kind of pointless right now. We might as well try." So he kind of slowly, just minor impulse, just moves the ship towards this big Nautilus. And at first it keeps kind of retreating and keeping the same distance. It turns to one side a little bit, like it looks like it had turned. It looks like when you guys saw it, Drew was still moving the ship slightly towards it, and maybe it saw you beforehand, and it had already kind of rotated to its side, basically, to be able to look at you. That thing on the side is probably some kind of an eye, it seems. But as you guys move towards it, it turns towards it. The tentacles are now facing you. The shell is away from you, and it is moving, kind of keeping the same distance. But Drew, like, not having much else to do, or not, having much other idea, keeps kind of following it, basically. You kind of keep, I would say that the ship just keeps following unless you guys, have anything else that you're doing, or anything else that you want to try or do.
we don't think we have any way of communicating with it.
I think I'm
close, right?
good for now.
Okay. All right. So the shoes keeps following this giant Nautilus, and what appears to be days pass. Again, having to kind of look at the ship's clocks. Like you are, for lack of anything else to look at or do, very often you find yourselves kind of snapping out of it, and you look forward and you realize that you've just been staring at this thing, at the tentacles kind of slowly meandering in front of you as it moved away for hours at a time. You'll kind of snap out of it and realize you've just been staring in the same exact spot for 6 hours, without any other means of entertaining or anything else. Whatever other research and so on you choose to do, that's fine too. But in your empty time, especially because you don't necessarily need to sleep, time is just kind of a weird molasses, just moving slowly. But eventually, I'd say a couple of days after that, in the distance it gets much, much darker. So where you were seeing through an unending distance of clouds, straight ahead of you appears to be some kind of like a wall almost, that is just unimaginably tall. You can see the gray swirling clouds above it and below it, but you're flying towards a big square of dark space that's in front of it, and the Nautilus is going straight towards that. And over the next day, as it gets larger and larger, kind of filling up more and more of the horizon there, the Nautilus eventually disappears into it, as if it wasn't even there. It just flies straight into it. Drew kind of pauses and he slows the ship. He says, "Whoa, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable flying to try to fly the shoes through a wall. What do you guys think?"
Want to launch one of the harpoons and see if it actually goes through?
We can give it a shot. They're not harpoons, by the way. They're cannons.
Cannons. I'm sorry.
He says,
See if it's actually solid or not.
Yeah, we can give it a shot. Hopefully, it's not something's going to get mad at us. Well, I mean, we'll need. I'm gonna have to stay here to pilot this, so we'll need two of you to go out there and fire it.
I'll help.
I can try. I don't know how much help I'll be.
I mean, it's not hard. Ketis can show you how to do it. So you guys head out there, though, aiming the cannon at the wall. Are you aiming anywhere in particular? It's kind of a big giant square. Basically, you're aiming for just a random spot, or are you trying to hit the spot where the Nautilus went in?
Yeah, if we could know as close to our best guess of where it went in. So.
Okay. All right, so you kind of aim it in that general direction anyways, and fire it off. Basically, just one person has to be on each side to kind of aim the cannon is all. You fire it off, and the glowing ball, like a cannonball almost, that shoots out the end of it, sails off in the distance, and it slowly arcs down. Like you've aimed it at this, but it's difficult to judge distance here without any other indicators. So slowly arcs down as if there is some kind of gravity below, and it kind of takes a very long time, and then it hits just the edge right before it would, right before the ball would have passed below the bottom of this big square. But it did hit it. It looks like there was an impact of some kind.
Yeah, alright then. Great.
Drew sees this. He says, "Well, I mean, it looks to be physical, so I don't want to just jam the ship in through that. We'll probably all, crash and die. I've been decent about avoiding that for almost 100 years now. I don't want to start today."
Okay.
Can we try going over it or under it?
You're a lot further away from it than you thought. So you guys saw the Nautilus pass through it, but you didn't really know how big the Nautilus was. You didn't have anything to judge it by. So now that shot happened, you have a kind of a decent means of kind of gauging distance, at least a little bit. And Drew tells you, yeah, I think we're a lot further away from that than it seemed. That Nautilus just must have been just gargantuan. It must have been just massive.
Yeah, can we go over? Under?
He says, "Sure. I mean, we can give it a shot." So, without tilting the ship, because you have recognized that there must be some kind of gravity now that the cannonball kind of shot off in the distance and then fell. He kind of lifts the ship, going straight up, not tilting and facing up, but basically just elevating like an elevator. Goes up towards the top of this wall, but as he's moving up, you guys are, you're still kind of standing outside on the deck. Either this wall is following you at the exact same distance, or something strange is happening in that it seems like you're still pointed straight at the very center of this big wall. There's this kind of darkened shape in the distance, but you haven't. It doesn't look like you're moving. The ship is definitely moving because you can feel the clouds moving around you. And it's definitely moving, but it seems like this wall is like following you in the same way.
Oh shit.
Drew says, I want to try something, guys. And he takes the ship, and you feel, Naivara and Kitas, you guys are standing on the deck unless you come back inside. He tries to spin the ship to the right, to try to turn, to try to maybe if he can go, off to basically, put the wall on your left side and move forward. And as he's turning, sure enough, you feel the ship move, like you can feel the G-force of the ship being rotated like that, being turned to the right. But as he's turning, the wall is still straight in front of you. It just follows you along.
Can the ship fly backwards?
He says, well, fuck. That's what I was going to try, so I guess we'll give it a shot. And he puts it in reverse and tries to pull away. And same thing, you feel the ship moving backward, from under your feet. You're still on the deck, of course. And the wall is following you still. It's still in front of you. He says, well, I'm not a real smart guy. I'm kind of just the pilot, so I think I'm gonna need your guys' expertise here. I don't really know what else we can do here. I can try going towards it. Just real careful, real slow like, but unless you guys have any better ideas.
Might be the only option. It's just gonna follow us.
How about you, Peter?
Looks like it might be the only option at this point.
He kind of nods. He says, I don't like it, but I think that might be the case. Well, here goes. And he kind of very slowly, impulses forward. And the ship moves closer to it, and as it does, this wall continues to get larger. In the initial kind of approach to it, this wall did get larger and larger, and sure enough, as he's moving towards it, it continues to do just that. And as it takes a long time. It's still probably another half day before you get close enough to be able to be able to make out any details. But as you approach, you eventually see that it looks almost like the cliff of a mountain, like the side of a sheer mountain that is just a perfect 90 degrees. But there are occasional rocky outcroppings, basically, like flat spaces that are chunks of the rock has been blown away. In fact, actually, your cannon probably created one similar down towards the bottom. But there's holes in the rock, essentially, not holes like caves that you could go in through, for the most part, until you get close enough that you see there is one kind of smooth rocky outcropping that's almost straight ahead of you. It would be pretty close, at least you guess, pretty close to the place where the Nautilus would have gone in through, except the Nautilus was so massive, now that you've kind of gotten close enough to see this, that it would have been, height-wise, it would have been probably about 20 to 25% or so of the height of this whole wall, and your ship might only be like 5% of that. So, the Nautilus had to have been just gargantuan. And the spot where the Nautilus went into it, there's no hole. So it had to be somehow intangible. It had to be able to pass through the stone somehow, because you're on approach now. You can see there's this landing, basically, this place where you could potentially dock the ship, and then maybe get out of the ship from there, if that's what you wanted to do anyways. But it's like straight ahead. It's almost like it was intended to be there, because it's right where the ship was, where the wall was kind of forcing you to go almost, since you couldn't turn any other way.
Give it a shot. Go mountain climbing.
And keep your guard up and move on in.
All right. Drew, similarly unhappy with this solution, but not seeing much else, much other option. He sails the ship in towards the wall, and he says, "Well, I mean, I'm gonna have to try to turn again to be able to land on that ledge. So, I guess we'll give it a shot. Let's see if the wall rotates with us." And he kind of, as he gets closer, kind of carefully turns in, this kind of slow arc to be able to land on, but the wall stays still this time. And he kind of moves in and slowly sets the ship down on this little rocky ledge. So you guys have docked the ship now. Alice looks very nervous. Remember, she is 91 years old at this point, but doesn't look it, of course. And you're all, have had plenty of very weird experiences in all the time that you've had with all of these different cycles, but this one, you're all like very tense and very nervous. It's been weeks now that you've been traveling through this kind of empty space, probably almost a month now, actually. But you've now docked on the ledge here. There appears to be nothing else. You're basically just kind of on this rocky ledge, and make a perception check on anybody who would have been staring at the wall specifically as you approached.
I'll do it.
Okay. Peter and Ketis both. What was Navarre doing?
I probably would have been just looking around to make sure that there wasn't anything else coming at us.
Okay. Peter and Ketis, both of you, on approach, noticed that it looks like there is a small, like a tiny cave entrance, for lack of a better term, but the tunnel would have to be very, very small. It'd have to be something like you'd pretty much have to crawl through, and it was very small and hard to notice. But Ketis, you noticed it, and you asked Peter, "Hey, did you see that?" And Peter, you had seen it as well, and it's up a good 80 feet from where that outcropping is. So you've landed the ship, and up the wall, up this kind of sheer rock wall. I mean, it's a rock. It is climbable. It's not smooth like concrete or anything. But basically 80 feet or so up from where you are is this tiny like hole in the wall.
Check it out.
Able to throw a Toki through that?
It's so far up, you'd have to turn Toki into something else and then send him up.
Can we climb and Toki can hop in my bag?
I mean, you presumably could. The wall is, like I said, it's got enough rough shape to it that you could find handholds and footholds to be able to climb up.
I'll try.
Worst case scenario is Navarra able to transform into something that could climb the wall like a lizard or a snake of some sort. Maybe she can scout for us a little.
I think I've got poisonous snake on here.
You do. A snake isn't gonna probably be ideal at it, at climbing a rock wall, but something like a spider or a lizard, yeah, like Sako said.
Oh, a giant spider being too big.
In looking at it, you could probably manage it, but it would be riskier, and then also the hole up above a giant spider wouldn't fit into if you did get up that far.
Okay. So what else do I have? I've got a badger.
Can a badger climb a sheer rock? Relatively sheer. I know they're
Honey
good at
badger
climbing
don't
trees
care.
and stuff. He don't care, but he's gonna fall right back to the bottom and smash his dumb badger head.
I've got ape.
You got what?
Ape?
Ape. An ape could probably do it. But, I mean, if you're going to do that, you'd probably be able to do it in Navarro form, too. But, I mean, you know lizards. Like, I mean, you could just... A lizard, like a chameleon or something, would be able to stick to the wall.
Okay. Give it a try.
All right. Then, So you're going to go by yourself?
I don't know that I can take any of them. Will they fit?
Not on... I mean, like, is anybody else climbing with you?
I'll go.
All right. What's your, I would say, marching order, but I guess your climbing order? you're probably going to be able to outpace the lizard. You know, if this we're talking a chameleon, it's going to be a lot longer for a chameleon to make its way up an 80-foot cliff.
I'll go ahead and head up first then, see if make
Okay.
sure there's nothing up.
All right. So Navarre, you Ketis is kind of started, pulled a couple of pittons out of his bag. You guys, I would say that you guys, managed to make a couple of pittons out of the materials you have, and are jamming it into the wall as you're climbing, just trying to give yourself a safe means of ascending. And then Navarre, you kind of begin crawling up right behind him. Ketis, your climb speed would be a lot faster. Of course, I think your climb speed's probably, I think it's half, so it'd be 20 feet. And Navarre's yours would be, I think, 10 or something like that, probably for a chameleon. So, I mean, you pretty quickly outpace. And Peter, you're standing out on the deck there with Yorith and Elsbeth. Drew's still in the cabin. Jack is in with the Alcubierre drive. Alice is out with you guys on the deck. But you're watching them climb up this wall. Ketis, when you get up, every once in a while you're just kind of looking down, just making sure that Navarre is still kind of safely, making her way up behind you. You look down, see, distance-wise. Now that you've actually got a frame of reference, you can get an idea of distances and things like that. So it's almost refreshing to have something to do that isn't just kind of flying through, empty space, basically. And you're kind of enjoying that, at least as weird as this is, at least there's something here. And you're making your way up this rock wall until something happens. You don't know what it is. You just know that the next second you are back on the ground and in a ton of pain. You've taken, I think it's everything over 10. So, I mean, you're in pain. It's not, lethal. It's only 8 damage. But you are back on the ground, and your back hurts like a motherfucker. Navarre, you saw him climbing up there, and taking a handle, jamming this spike into the rock wall. Doing the same with the left hand, rinse and repeat as he's climbing up there, and eventually he got up. He's probably 15 feet above you, and his arms go still, and he just goes slack like he fell asleep, and he fell and plummeted all the way down that 35 feet or so until he hit the ground below. Peter and everybody on the deck, though, you just saw Ketis just plummet and just land flat on his back in the rocks.
Damn it.
Yeah, you wake up to this. Like, you basically you fell asleep is what it felt like. You fell asleep about halfway up, and plummeted down and landed very painfully on very rough, like, you didn't land on smooth ground. You landed on, pebbles, like shards of rock and stuff, which obviously, would hurt pretty badly. Your false life was burned off. You took 1 total point of damage because you had your false life up. So, I mean, you're not badly wounded, you're just sore. You kind of wake up and lift your head up, sit up a little bit, shake your head, trying to shake off the what the hell just happened kind of thing. But you're looking up, you still see the chameleon up there on the wall. What are you guys doing?
I'm gonna use detect magic since I'm up here.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a way I can do some type of arcane detection?
Yeah. I mean, from your distance, go ahead and make your Arcana check with advantage. What level's detect? Is that 2?
1, I believe. Yeah, it's 1.
All right. You can, let's see. Oh, with a 27 for sure, Peter. There's a big chunk in the center of that path, basically like a big circle. In the center of that, if you went straight from the rock where you are all the way up to that hole, there's a big circle, basically a big chunk of rock in the middle that is radiating a magical aura from it. The Navarre being closer to it and casting specifically detect magic, it's within range. It's within 30 feet. You can tell that there's this sleep is emanating from these rocks, specifically the spell sleep, and it's it's called upcasted, but basically a very powerful version of the spell sleep.
So essentially it's like a landmine pressure plate type of thing. You touch it, you sleep.
Maybe. From your range here, you're guessing that it's probably just, that those rocks have been enchanted with it, so if you got close to it, it'll impact you. You don't necessarily even have to touch it. Just potentially get in within range. So Ketis, you kind of stand up and look around. You see, you wouldn't see the spell cast actually because there's no visual representation for detect magic. But you're kind of looking around, like what should I do, kind of thing.
I guess I'll
Navarra
try
can't talk, so she couldn't have told you, huh?
I guess I'll try dispel magic.
All right. What level is dispel magic?
Level 3.
Am I anywhere near yelling distance?
Yeah.
So if I were just to shout out to Ketis, let him know that area is enchanted of some sort, and kind of let him know what's going on.
Okay. So you shout that out to him, Ketis. Yeah, you hear that. I would say that because you were kind of already, looking for arcane sources, you could tell that Navarre casted a spell, and you can kind of guess that it's probably detect magic. So you can tell that she's looking at it right now. Third level or lower automatically ends. What level are you casting it at? You casting it at third?
Let's try 4th.
Okay.
Alright, is there any way I can maybe join them? I could jump down to where Ketis is?
Yeah. You're on the deck of the ship. You can hop down there right next to him.
Alright, I'm gonna hop down, and if possible, I'm just gonna cast a spider climb on him.
Okay. Go ahead and mark off your spell slot for it. Lower, higher. While you're up on the wall, you've casted it at the rocks here, and it looks like the detect magic glow that you've casted against it cut down by about half. It's still there, but it looks like it's just been pretty. It's dimmed quite a bit.
You guys want me to try and see if I can make it through?
I don't know if you added spider climb or not to Ketis, but
you actually can do that. So go to your what level spider climb?
it's a level 2.
All right. So go ahead and mark off your spell slot if you didn't already, and then
Yep, got it.
The effect for it
Should be the bottom one, I think.
Yeah, it'll say you want one that does not say self. As long as it doesn't say self, you can. Okay. So the first one, you click the first one, and that'll apply that to you. That's your concentration effect. So basically, if you got hit, that's what will potentially basically to keep if a concentration effect is broken, that's what would drop it. So you click the first one, and it'll automatically apply it to you. And then you're going to drag the second one that does not say self. You're going to drag that over and put it on Ketis on the combat tracker.
Okay, so click self first and then drag the second
Yep.
him.
Yep. And it lasts for an hour.
I dragged it onto Ketis's image, but it's not doing anything.
Looks like you put it on Peter.
Well, that's the concentration effect of the spell, so...
Okay.
I don't... you guys should be able to do that. I'll go ahead and do it for you. There it is. Alright. Let me make sure that's the right one. I think it was. Yeah, that's right. It just looks the same. I might change that in the future just to make it easier to recognize, because when you cast that, does it put it on yourself as well, or only on your target? It's probably only on the target, right?
I think it should just only be target.
Yeah. One willing creature you touch. Yep. Cool.
So
you
essentially,
now have...
Ketis now has full walking speed, upside down, along walls. He can vertically, horizontally.
So you can now move 40 feet up this wall every 6 seconds, G. And it's only about 80 feet or so up to the where the crevice is. What is Navarra doing? You're still up on the wall there, a ways below where this glowing area is from detect magic.
Okay, and it's still glowing.
It is, yes, but faintly. I mean, it's not. It wasn't glowing super bright before. It just had basically these rocks with detect magic were glowing, not without them. But when you cast it on it, it looks like there's still a glow there. It's just half as bright as it was.
Alright, then we're gonna try dispel magic again at level 3.
Okay. I closed that one. Where did it go? Okay. You go through the same incantation again, and this time the glow has dimmed to the point where, like, if you didn't know that it was there, you probably wouldn't have noticed it. So it has basically diminished. It looks like it's all but completely gone.
Okay. And I guess just slowly make my way up.
Yeah, I'll go up too.
Okay. With a 10 and a 4, like, Ketis, you're going to pretty much catch up to... I would say that you guys both make it to the edge of where this glowing space is. Ketis, you don't know that it's there, but you catch up to Nivara in this kind of chameleon lizard form attached to the rock here. What do you guys do? I guess who's... Anybody going first? You can both try to go at the same time.
Is there enough room for me to sit on the ledge and let her cruise the tunnel a little bit because she's smaller and she could look through and run back through if she needs to?
You're not on a ledge, you're still kind of on this sheer cliff face. You basically have another 35, 40 feet or so to go until you get to where the little crevice is, where there's a hole in the wall that you guys can, potentially crawl through.
Okay.
Okay, well, I guess I'll try to go first, and hopefully if I fall asleep, and you can catch me if I fall.
Yeah.
So reach out and grab this favorite little lizard.
Little tiny lizard with my hand.
So you reach this kind of little almost pseudopod-shaped chameleon arm forward into this kind of glowing. There is a defined edge where this glow is. It's very faint, but since you know that it's there, you reach this kind of lizard leg out towards it and put your lizard hand against it, and your hand sticks to it. Everything seems normal. You don't feel anything. So you kind of pull yourself up and bring your right hand up, your right foreleg, and tap against it, and similarly you don't feel anything. So getting a little more confident, you go ahead and move your way up a little bit further, and you make it on through this glowing space. It's still glowing beneath your hands a little bit, and you can still feel that these are still enchanted. It didn't break the enchantment, but the effect of it has been burned out, at least for now. Like, maybe it'll regrow in time, but at least for now it seems to be diminished to the point where you can move through it without it. Like, you may feel just the slightest sense of kind of drowsiness from it, but it's not enough to knock you out. So Ketis, you see this lizard crawling up her way through the rocks.
I'll go up too then once I notice she gets past the point where I thought I fell.
Okay. All right. So you go ahead. You climb up through it, and you, in a matter of a few seconds, make your way up to where that little rocky outcropping is, where the little ledge is. And you're basically holding onto the edge of it. Your hand is actually on this. Your hand is on this ledge where you can pull yourself up to go into this little cave entrance. In a matter of 20 seconds later or so, this little lizard has caught up with you. Looking down, Peter, you can see up there. Basically, you're looking almost straight up, 80 feet to where they're at this ledge, and it looks like they've made it in. Elsbeth and Yorith and Jack are all standing out there with you. Alice has gone back inside to try to calm Cetus some more. Drew is still at the helm, but basically they're all kind of looking up. And Elsbeth says to you, Peter, she says, I mean, you usually go with them. Are you going to stay here this time? Are you going to go investigate? What do you want to do?
I'll run up with them. I'll start climbing.
She kind of nods. She's like, I'd like to go, but I don't know. This one still has me nervous. I think I'll stay here with Drew just in case we need to get the ship out of here quickly or something. Yorith and Jack will say, I mean, do you want either of us to go, or do you guys want to handle this one?
What do you guys think?
They're talking down on the deck, but you can hear them over your guys' walkie-talkies, your headsets.
Well, the encounter might get a little hectic in there.
We brought Jack last time and got him killed. You want to bring Yorith this time?
Get her killed?
Sure.
She says, she pipes up with a thing. She's
Wouldn't
like,
be my
thanks,
first
Ketis. Yeah.
Actually, this would be the first time. Technically, the other one would be the second time, just in the future.
She's like, I'm warning you now. As soon as I get up there, I'm throwing your ass off this cliff. See if you can come back.
Let's do it. You guys ready?
All right. So she and I would say that she probably put spider climb up as well on herself. Now that Ketis is on the cliff, you could drop the concentration of spider climb on him and put it on yourself, Peter, so that you could climb easier without risking falling, if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Then if you're doing that, I'll just remove that effect. You just leave it on. You'd need to recast though, so make sure you mark off that other spell slot if you're going to do that. It can only be on one at a time, so Yorith puts it on herself. But you guys make your way up there. You both Nivara and Ketis have kind of had to move into the. I'll put her on here too, so we can use her if we need to. Moved into the crevice, and it looks like it's like a meandering crawl space, like it's a long cave that goes, it turns off to the right as soon as you, as close as you can see. But you guys, I guess, what's your marching order? It's the 4 of you in the combat tracker, so what's the order?
I'll go first.
All right, Ketis, you're in front then. Everybody else kind of coming up behind. You put false light back up, it looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It is a long corridor, and it actually seems almost too perfect. Like it has to be almost intentionally created to be an uncomfortable tunnel that you would have to crawl through for a humanoid shape of about this size. Navarre, are you staying in lizard form, or are you going back to your normal shape?
No, I'll go back to normal.
Right. Mark off your wild shape you used to. So you kind of make your way crawling through this space until you eventually see what looks like light almost, which is weird because you for nearly a month now have been in this kind of gray, dim space, so you haven't had this kind of light. So it's almost weird to see this in the distance, and it almost seems like it's an optical illusion until you make your way out through the edge of this. And as soon as you finally come out the other end of this tunnel, it seems like you've been crawling for half an hour. You come out through the end of this, and you're standing in front of a big, what looks like a mansion. You crawl out through this, and you're out on this rocky outcropping, like floor, like it was intentionally designed to be like this. Still rocky and everything, but there are steps that lead up to a giant mansion right in front of you. And this rock wall goes all the way around. By the way, it's not. You're not looking anymore at just open gray space. You're looking at this almost a cube with no roof and a mansion inside of it. It's in the distance. It's not, it's still off a ways. Like there's still fog between you and it.
Let's get closer slowly then. What do you think?
Stop in for a spot of tea.
It looks old and broken down. Victorian era style. Obviously, Ketis and Navarre and Peter wouldn't know what that is, but it looks out of place. You haven't really seen this style of architecture before. You wouldn't recognize it, but it looks like an old, broken down, abandoned house. But you guys kind of slowly approach. It's quite big. It's a very, very big place. A lot of the wood is kind of rotted and falling away. The awning, like a gutter, basically the edge of the roof has fallen away at one point and is just hanging there, like it hasn't completely detached from both sides. It was only detached on one side. So there's just a big chunk of wood basically that's hanging off the edge, kind of face down. And the wooden steps are broken in a couple of different places that lead up to the front door. But you guys have approached enough that from here you can see, a lot of there's windows all around. Many of them are broken. There's 2 big, double doors on the front that are still intact, but you don't see motion or activity or anything.
Head inside.
Maybe we should knock on the door first.
Okay.
So it's just barging in.
Yeah. We'll knock.
Okay. So you make your way up the steps. You're all standing there on the deck, basically. Yorith is kind of looking around nervously, like kind of carefully peeking over to one side, like she wants to look inside because, she's inquisitive by nature and wants to look in, but also doesn't want to, get her head bitten off by something crazy. So you guys kind of step up there. Navarre, you reach over and knock on the door. You hear a booming echo that echoes through all of the space around you, not through the door, but through all of this kind of glowing gray mist that's around you. But there's no further response. Just a loud knock that booms through from like all around. Like if you guys were in a snow globe and somebody knocked on the outside of it, that's what it sounds like. It just echoes from all directions.
Peeking into it.
What'd you say?
peek in the door, crack it a little bit.
You try the door, and you try to turn the knob, and nothing happens.
Okay.
Like, the doorknob turns. It doesn't feel like it's locked, but the door doesn't open.
Are there any windows?
Yep, windows all over the place.
Try to break one in.
There's plenty of them that are already even broken.
Try climbing through windows.
You go to put your hand through it, and it feels solid. It feels like there's nothing there. It feels like the window is intact, smooth like glass, but you can see that there's nothing there.
Is there a way we can detect illusions? Do you have anything for illusion detection?
Detect magic would do that. It'll tell you what school it is. So
Yeah, use that.
okay. You sense that actually, yes, much of this, basically the whole house is glowing, and a lot of it is illusion, but there's also a lot of it that is clearly necromantic for sure, and alteration. And you see, you know what, because you're so close, you can identify specifically what spell it is. I wouldn't have given you this otherwise, but the front door is locked with a arcane lock. And it appears to be a very specific trigger to it. Because you're looking around as well, both Nivara and Peter make investigation checks. Because I would have waited until you guys looked around it anyways, but since you're kind of already doing that for arcane means, I'd say that you would get this as well. Peter, Nivara, you're kind of looking around, checking these kind of magical auras to see what source these might be. Peter, looking with kind of an investigative, mundane eye. You do notice that there's a big sunburst on the front door, right between them. So there's these two doors, big double doors, and half of the sun is on one side and it's white, and half the sun on the other side is dark. But it's a big sun symbol that's half and half, right in the middle of the door. What did you use that was 8th level already, Sako?
That was a sunburst.
Oh, shit. Okay.
I'm debating whether to use my 6th level to use a true sight to see what's going on around here. True sight.
I was thinking it was Nivara that did sunburst, so sorry earlier if I was referring to her moving the sun out in the front. No, she was doing the wind. Okay, I did do that right, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. I was thinking that was Nivara that did that, so hopefully, Sako didn't spend the spell slot and I'm describing it as Nivara doing all of the effects of it.
What do you think? If I use my true seeing, I could see what really is going on with this house. I might be able to clue us in on what we can do.
Okay.
It's gonna
Using
burn
your
up
third
to
eye?
6th level.
Well, don't forget you have your third eye, dude.
Oh,
You
that's
can
true
use a
too.
spell slot if you want to, but specifically as a diviner, you have an ability that does exactly that.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Let's roll the third eye. Let me take a quick look here under features.
It's under your actions too, under wizard.
All right. Yeah, let's check that third eye.
Okay. 10th level, you can use your action to increase your powers of perception. When you do so, choose one of the following benefits, which lasts until you're incapacitated or you take a short or long rest. Can't use it until you finish a rest. You can get dark vision, ethereal sight, greater comprehension, or see invisibility. Which, you know what, I would say that it doesn't have true sight in there, but I would say that you should get true sight with that ability at least, by 18th level. So we'll go ahead and give you true sight for that as well. What level is true sight supposed to be? The regular spell?
6.
All right, let me scroll to that real quick, and we'll put the effect on you. And I'll, mark it so that it doesn't count against your concentration because it's just an effect you should have. 120 feet, yeah. There you go. Alright, True Sight. Spell gives the willing creature you touch the ability to see things as they actually are. For the duration, the creature has True Sight, notices secret doors. Well, that sucks. Hidden by magic and can see into the ethereal plane, all out to a range of 120 feet. You kind of tap the third eye of your diviner abilities. Looking at the door here, you see the arcane lock that Navarre had mentioned from her detect magic on the door here, and it is very intricately weaved together to set off a trap unless it's hit with illumination magic of some kind.
Gotcha. Then I guess let's chuck some of those light balls at it.
Okay, so you send out dancing lights.
Dancing lights, yeah.
All right, so you send out dancing lights at it, and it hits, or where I guess you send it at there, based on your description there, basically in kind of all directions of it, and it hits into the door, and the two, you basically send two to the left side and two to the right side. It bounces off the right side and just kind of sits there. Your light just sits there. You tried to send it through the door and it didn't work. The two balls that you send on the left side pass on through. The left side of the sun image is the light side. The right side is the black side.
So I'm confused. So nothing can pass that door unless it's illuminated on the left side.
You sent out you have basically 4 orbs that come out of dancing lights, and because you didn't describe it any other way, I just assumed that half of them went through the left side of the door and half of them tried to go through the right side of the door. The left side, the orbs passed through. There's the sun symbol that's on the door is half and half. It's split in half down the middle. The left half of the door and the right half of the door. The left half of the door is lit up like a sun, like a white sun, and the right half is lit up like a black, or is painted in like black, like a black sun. And your 2 of the orbs that tried to go through the right side bounced off of it.
Okay. Yeah, I was just doing the True Sight, and I guess you said that the trap needs to be disarmed with illumination, right?
And it appears to have been half done so far.
Alright, I gotta find some type of darkness, maybe try the right side.
Are you saying this out loud?
Yeah, trying to see if I have anything prepared for a dark spell or something.
As long if you said it out loud, Yoris says, "Well, I mean, I can do that. I can hit the other one with darkness. I'm gonna try it."
Yeah,
she's with you guys too, and remember, she's another 18th level caster, so she can help you, with spells since you decided to bring her along.
Oh, that works. Yeah, I'll shoot the lights again on the left side, and we'll just time it together. She'll shoot dark on the right and light on the left.
Okay. So you guys kind of 1, 2, 3, and you fire it off at the same time. And as soon as both hit, you see this kind of glowing black orbs, basically. Just one that sends out from her and hits into the wall. And when both sides are hit, the outside kind of gold filigree around it lights up with kind of this glowing arcane color, and the doors swing back open. And you're looking inside at the foyer of a very decrepit, very old, broken down mansion.
Alright, you guys wanna
move on
cruise
in?
Alright.
Let's do it.
I will share you guys the map here in just a second. Oh, sorry, that was the wrong floor. Close that one. It's all masked anyway, so you didn't see anything. Anything you shouldn't have seen. Right.
Well,
There
now,
you go. Let me know when you guys have
now
it.
we know what it is, too.
What'd you say? Oh, god damn it.
Now we,
You fuckers.
now we know what it is.
You son of a bitch. God fucking damn it.
Because the last
Sorry,
time
dude.
we were there
What'd you
was
say, Becky?
swirling gray clouds on the outside.
Yeah, you're right. I was staring at that.
You should
Yeah.
have known already anyways, but still, god damn it. Fucking makes me mad. I fucking missed that. Oh, son of a bitch. I'm so mad. It's cool. It's cool that you caught that. It just annoys me that I did not catch it.
Can you send it back to me again? I close it.
Oh yeah. So if you on the right side, do you have a button that says pictures or sorry, image/map?
Yeah.
Click that, and then you should see any of them that have been shared to you. You can always reopen images from there. The one you want is Azul House 3.
Gotcha. Loading now.
All right. God damn it! Can't believe I fucking put that on there. Son of a bitch! I've actually had these maps prepared because you guys could have come here a long time ago. You just never chose to go this way. So I've had these maps ready to go, and I just meant to rename them and just didn't do it. All right. There we go. I'll get a better token for yours as well. That was just the default one that I had. Right, so you guys are kind of looking into this foyer that has been long since kind of emptied, it seems, of anything that might have been too valuable. Like you can see where a chandelier used to hang above. You can actually see up to the second floor landing. But basically it's been pretty much destroyed. The walls have largely been ripped apart. Well, actually all three of you have been in the Azul house before. But it's in the future, so of course your characters do not know this place yet. But you're basically looking into a very old mansion that has been largely destroyed. The walls have been, broken in places. There are scrawlings in places, some in languages you can't recognize or languages you don't understand, and some in what looks to be the same languages you guys know, same in common essentially. But you're basically looking at a very destroyed and kind of dilapidated, some by age, some by other means, like force, of a destroyed place. There's a door on the right. There's a door up ahead on the left that looks like it would go, maybe into a hallway, like an archway. Not a door, but an archway. And then there's the stairs that go up and down. It is 4:06 though. Sako, how long do you have? Do you need to go?
I could probably do like a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, we'll go for a few more. At least you guys can get stepped inside here. And then we can pick up here next week. So where we are, we will probably complete the rest of the Stolen Century next week anyways. So, we'll finish, what you guys need to do here, and then wrap up the Stolen Century, and then we'll be at the ending, basically, for the following week. We'll probably be finished at the end of January. So, what are you guys doing?
You guys want to go downstairs?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. You make your way over to the steps there, and you can see everything in here, by the way, Peter, since your true sight will be up until you take a rest, basically, which is going to make some things. Navarre, would you do me a favor? Becky, would you do me a favor of keeping Yorth along with you, too? Wherever you think she might be. I'll let you know, of course, if there's something. Huh?
Cool. Move her.
Oh, god damn it. I don't think it's locked. I'll have to figure out why that didn't, like Sako couldn't apply the true sight effect, or the spider climb effect earlier too. Anyway though, you guys kind of approach these stairs here, and Peter, you kind of put your foot down like you're going to step onto the, down into the step, and your foot stops right above it, like where the floor would be if the floor just continued on. That's what you step onto, as if there aren't stairs there, as if it's just floor.
Fake stairs. And my true sight is allowing me to see stairs?
Yes, you can see that they're not real. You can see that there are you can see that there are stairs there, but there's something keeping, like there's something in the way that's not real, that's preventing you from being able to step down to it.
Gotcha. All right, I'll keep the party informed of my true sight findings as I find them.
Okay.
So
We'll
maybe
just assume
then
that much
upstairs.
That if you are going to keep telling them as as time goes by or something like that. Anything basically that I tell you, I'll just assume that you're also sharing it with them. Sound good?
Sounds good. You guys want to go upstairs instead?
Yeah. Do I still have detect magic on?
How long does it last?
10 minutes?
Yeah, it hasn't been 10 minutes since you were looking at the door. Did you cast it again at the door? I think you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Outside the house? Yeah, then it would still be up.
Is there anything glowing inside?
All over the place. You similarly see that those stairs, that there's kind of looks like the shape of a board, like a big board that would be covering those stairs. There is there's something in the room with you guys. There's a humanoid shape that is in the room with you guys that, Peter, you can see. It looks tall and slender. It doesn't appear to be, it looks naked basically, a humanoid shape, and Nivara, looking around, you also see that this thing is in here, and it came through the wall. It walked through the wall and is like kind of moving around you guys. It's not in your way, it doesn't appear to be impeding you, but it's clearly interested in you guys. Ketis, from your place on the stairs, actually, you don't see this, but basically you and you and Peter standing on the stairway there. This is what Peter would see. If I can find it. I keep grabbing the wrong box here. Still getting used to trying to use multiple screens again, I guess. Where's it at? Didn't appear in there yet. It's there. It should be showing up. There it is. All right. Peter, you can actually see all of this detail. Nivara, you would see just the kind of glowing silhouette of this shape. So I'll be sharing it here in just a second. But it's just standing there staring at you guys. There you go.
And he's up the stairs?
No, you guys are standing on Ketis and Peter are standing at the base of the stairs, and he's basically right at the foot of them looking at you.
Okay.
When you guys are kind of standing there quietly, Yorith is a little bit spooked, like a little bit nervous. She's go, what are you guys staring at? Because it's kind of right by her, and you're looking at the empty space, like basically right next to her, and she's kind of looking over there too, like, what are you guys staring at? Because you're looking at this space, you know, as if there's something there, and she's like starting to back away. Looks very nervous. She whispers to Nivara. She says, "You'll protect me, right?"
Sure, if I can protect myself.
What are you guys doing?
I'm just gonna shoot some dancing lights around him and just kind of see if he moves or it moves or
Okay.
gets a reaction.
You send out these glowing orbs around it, and it doesn't react at all. They're dancing around its head, like it would be blinding, just because it would be right in front of its vision, as they're kind of bouncing around its head, and it's not reacting at all, still just staring at you.
I'm gonna sidestep and see if he follows me.
I didn't put a token on here to represent, but I'd say that as soon as you kind of move closer to him, he's still facing you, still staring at you guys. He just backs away, you know, basically you step 2 steps towards him, he just backs away 2 steps, still looking at you guys. He does kind of turn and look at Nivara as well. He looks interested in you, like, what are you guys doing here, kind of thing, but he hasn't, you don't know that he's capable of speech, but he hasn't said anything, and is not reacting in a hostile way towards you, at least as far as you can tell so far. Peter, make a perception check. I'd say with disadvantage even, because of what you're doing.
Take that.
God damn it. Fucking disadvantage, you get a 32? That's bullshit. Need to fucking debuff you guys, like, to all else that I can give you guys any kind of challenge. You as you've kind of stepped towards him, you notice that at the foot of these stairs, basically right where you're standing now, scratched into the wall. It was difficult to see at first because it was scratched purely through just taking maybe a knife or a dagger of some kind. Has been etched into the wall, and it's very harsh. Like somebody repeated this. They scratched it into the wall and then went over it again and went over it again and went over it again in the exact same way to scratch this in nice and deep. It's not written very large, which is why you didn't notice it so much at first. But it says, oops, God damn it. That. And I'd say that when you read that, you get a very similar feel from that as you did from reading the encoded messages that you found in the Reconditus world, where the Reconditus world had been like a saw blade cut into that planet. And you'd found a bunch of encoded messages in old tomes there. You get that same kind of dread feeling when you read that. You see you still have this creature that's kind of staring at the three of you, but not reacting to you in any way. Ketis, you see Peter's face kind of turn and look at this wall, and you turn and look at it as well, and you kind of read it just briefly over his shoulder. Make a memory check on Ketis. Nothing happens. You see this over his shoulders, but it doesn't ring any bells for you.
Can I just cast a mage hand and just kind of give him a little tap on the shoulder, a little push on the shoulder?
Sure. The creature, right? The thing that's standing there?
Yeah.
Okay. Where it did not react at all to you kind of bouncing the dancing lights around him, when it sees the mage hand floating towards him, he kind of turns and moves his shoulder out of the way. So you kind of, you're pushing your mage hand towards his shoulder, and it turns and kind of watches the mage hand coming towards it, and almost quizzically kind of rotates out of the way so that the mage hand would just pass over its shoulder. The mage hand is now kind of floating, basically above where his shoulder was previously.
All right, so he's aware of his spatial. He's got spatial awareness right now. He's not gone.
He appears to. I would say make an intelligence check on Peter. In the two, we'll call them scientific tests that you've just made with this, sending the light orbs around him and then the mage hand, he did not react to the light orbs at all, and did react to an arcane energy moving towards him specifically. Your guess, based on what you've seen, is that he might be blind. Able to see, in some sense, of maybe something even similar to True Sight, for example, but doesn't react to light.
Gotcha.
Ask him what his name is. See if I can get him to talk.
When you, other than Yorith saying you'll protect me, right, and you saying if I can protect myself, I don't think you guys have spoken unless you've, been talking amongst yourselves. I guess Peter was sharing what he was seeing with True Sight. So when you start to speak, actually, he like immediately turns to face you. He's looking at you, but the mouth doesn't. You don't actually see a mouth, anyways. You just see this kind of glowing shape. But the glowing shape kind of turns its head towards you, but nothing happens. He doesn't respond.
If I wave at him, does he wave back?
Make a performance check. You bring one arm up, and as soon as you've kind of extended your elbow out, like basically 90-degree elbow, and you start to lift your arm up, he's mimicking the exact same shape. As soon as your arm begins to go up, he's already doing the same thing. And as soon as you start to wave, it's like perfectly timed. It's almost as if he knew that's what you were going to do, and has copied like a mime would, like a good mime might, mockingly wave at you.
I don't know, I probably wouldn't know any sign language, so. I guess ask Ketis or Peter if they know any sign language.
I don't think I do, but I can mime pretty well.
Especially if you're stuck inside an invisible box, or pulling an invisible rope, or going down invisible stairs. As you guys are kind of going back and forth with this thing, trying to, maybe try to communicate with it on some level, you don't sense any hostility from it. It doesn't appear to be afraid of you, more inquisitive. But echoing as you're kind of here, kind of not looking around basically, but kind of focused on this thing, you hear echoing through the house, "Get out of my house." And this thing in front of you immediately looks like instantly terrified. Peter, you can tell this. Navarre, you just see the shape bolt out through the wall, disappears through the wall, and is gone. Off to the right. Peter, you saw like a look of terror across its features, and then it ran when it heard that. But it echoed throughout the house, like window panes rattling.
I'll let the team know that thing was terrified of whatever just said that, so obviously he knew who that was. I say let's go up the stairs anyway, see what's going on.
All right. It's a little after time for Sako anyways. You guys want to go ahead and call it here, and we'll pick up next week?
Okay.
All right.